Hey, hey there. Howdy, everybody. It's Lorraine. How are you guys doing? Come on in. All right. Usually it takes people a little bit of time to get here. Oh, there I am. I can see my live stream on my other monitor. Welcome, you guys. Welcome to 6 ways to spot a toxic job before you take it. All right, so we're going to gather for about 30 minutes or so. And I'm going to be honest, I see my dog. He wants to get out. I'm going to step away while you guys come in. It just gets real when you have a dog sometimes. They're unpredictable. Hang on. Okay, hopefully he won't interrupt us, you guys. But here we are. It's like having a baby at the house. It really is. Okay, so I am so excited to have you guys here. I do these LinkedIn Lives about once a month. And just in case you don't know me, I'm Lorraine. I'm the CEO of Career Uprising. We help mid and late career professionals to land a kick-ass job, advance their career, make more money, whatever it is that you need to be doing. All right, we can help you. We can help you change careers, write resumes, LinkedIn profiles, just figure out what the heck you want to do with your life, even though you're 45 or 50, 60 years old, right? We can help you learn to work with recruiters, leverage LinkedIn, literally everything. So my first call to action is going to be to go to the website careeruprising.com if you're not familiar with me and my team as well. I have a great team. And yep, there goes the doggy. I think he's going to go out. He's a poodle, little baby. Anyway, so what I want to do today over the next maybe 30 minutes or so is this is a free training where we're going to go through 6 ways that you can spot a toxic job before you take it, not after, right? Because it's always easy to spot it once you're already there. And I know this has happened to me. It's happened to plenty of people that I know as well. And it's frustrating, right? So you do all the work to land this job, and you do your job search, and you go on the million rounds of interviews, and you get into the job, and it's not what you think at all. It turned out to be a bunch of empty promises, and now it's a toxic environment. You have a bad boss, whatever. Or maybe sometimes the job is just completely different than what they told you in the interview. So there's a lot of things that can go wrong here, unfortunately, sometimes. So it's important that we as job seekers do our due diligence and do our research and figure out, is this the right job for me before it's too late? But how do you do that? And I'm going to start out by telling you guys there is some really shitty advice. And I just have to say it like that. I do, out there on the internet on a lot of career topics, but on this topic in particular, because I came across one article when I was kind of trying to get ideas for this. This one article said, and I'm not kidding, that a great way to determine if a company has the right culture for you is when you are on the interview, and this is assuming that you're in an in-person interview, which almost nobody does today, that you should use the bathroom and check the toilet paper roll. And if it's empty and nobody replaced it, then you don't want to work there, because that's obviously an environment that's dysfunctional and they can't get things done. That's almost a direct quote. That is what the website said, you guys. Okay, there is terrible advice out there, and I feel bad for people who are job hunting and really looking for legitimate strategies. So we're not going to talk about the toilet paper roll today, okay? We're not going to do that at all. I'm going to give you 6 real strategies for how you can evaluate a company and do your absolute best to make sure that it is the right fit before it's too late. Okay, so 6 things. Let's start with number 1. And if you see me look down, I got a little sticky note. I'm a sticky note gal. That's where I put my notes because I don't want to lose track or forget anything. So number 1, and keep in mind, these are all part of a comprehensive job search strategy. All right. So I want you to basically do all 6 of these things and not rely on any one because they work best really together. And for anybody who's here too, I'd love to know if you're here before we get started. Sorry. If you feel free to say hi to me, I'd love that. And just say, hey, Lorraine, or whatever you'd like. And you can let me know maybe where you're from, just a little something in the chat. And that way I can shout out and say hi to you. You don't have to, but don't be shy because then it doesn't feel like I'm just talking to my computer. That would be really great if we could have like a two-way conversation. And you guys can ask questions on the topic too. Engage with me. Please feel free. Okay. And I apologize in advance if you hear my dog barking in the background. Okay. Number 1, 6 ways to spot a toxic job. Okay. Read online reviews. Now, I know a lot of you already do this, and it is a legitimate part of your research. It's not the only thing we're going to do. Hi, somebody said hello. Love it. Thank you. I do want you to, number 1, read some online reviews. Now, I'm going to give you a really specific tip, okay? You know, this is Glassdoor or maybe other sites. I think maybe Indeed does reviews too. So I want you to read the reviews. I do want you to take some of this information. Oh, hello. Yay, lots of people here. Hey, Sonia, good to see your name. And everybody, we've got Kristen. I hope I say this right. Abdullah. It's a pretty name or a nice name there. I'm not sure. I hope I said that right. But anyway, I want you to read the online reviews, and I want you to focus specifically on your department. Okay. So what that means is company cultures can vary a lot from department to department, the IT department to the sales department to the marketing. Sometimes it can almost feel like a different company. So when you do read these online reviews, I want you to try to focus on roles that are what you would be looking for when you read these, and at least focus on the department, because that can really make a big difference in what you're reading and the relevance of it. Okay. So go to a couple different sites, read these reviews. Don't believe every word of them, but it's all one part of your research. And it's the information that we have. So we're going to maybe take it with a grain of salt, but we're going to consider it as part of our research. Okay. So that's step 1. Step 2, when you do interview, I want you to really pay attention to how they treat you. And whether it's in person or phone or through Zoom, I want you to pay attention to a couple of key things, okay? For example, I want you to notice, are they flexible with scheduling? Are they courteous to your schedule? Do they give you plenty of notice to schedule this interview? If you need to reschedule, do they allow that? Are they really demanding that you need to accept the offer right away, or you need to interview within 24 hours? If they're too pushy or too inflexible, I don't like that. I think they should be just as courteous to your schedule as you are to theirs. Okay. So pay attention to things like that. You need to get a good feeling from any job that you're at, and you need to feel like they respect you as a candidate. Okay. So pay attention to their courteousness and their flexibility as they're engaging. And that goes for their emails too, right? How quickly do they reply to your emails? How formal or informal are they? Those can mean a lot of different things. Okay. So number 3, I want you to learn to ask better questions in your interviews. What does that mean? So let's spend an extra couple minutes on this one. All right. So the typical interview questions that people ask are fine. There's nothing really wrong with them, but they don't always give us the real answers that we're looking for. And I really, really want you to also feel like you are interviewing the company as well. It is a two-way street. It should be a two-way conversation. All right. And if it's not, I want you to make it one. Those are the best interviews, right? Some companies will have a more formal process, some are more conversational, and that right there can tell you a lot as well, right? And formal versus informal is not bad or good necessarily. It's although you might have a preference, it is often indicative of the company culture, though. Okay, so are they just kind of asking more relaxed questions, or is it a strict panel interview? Now, that can depend on a lot of things. Sometimes a higher level job, you're going to have a more formal interview. So read into that how you want, but it does often reflect the company culture, how thorough or how formal their process is. And I do actually want you to be careful of any interview process that is too quick and too easy and almost too good to be true. Because when I had a toxic job, the only one I ever tolerated, and then I became self-employed. um, that was one of my red flags that I ignored. The interview process was so brief. Everything was just so vague. I didn't really know what I was going to be doing or who I was going to be working with. I only met one person. And I just had this cloudy feeling like, meh, it was just like, okay, but I took it anyway. That's a whole catastrophe we could talk about later. But what I'm saying here is it should be a two-way street. You should walk away with a really clear understanding of who you're working with, what you're doing, the scope of your responsibility. And I also want you to ask better questions. So here's what I mean, okay? Instead of just asking some of the typical questions like, what is your company's culture, right? That's a really common one that I think a lot of people like to ask. And it's not bad, but the problem is, I really think you're probably just going to get some canned talking points, right? Because they kind of expect everybody to ask that question. So what I want you to do is I want you to reword your questions and word them in the same way that they ask you questions, which is, give me an example of, tell me about a time when. All right. So maybe we could say, give me an example of a time when an employee demonstrated the company's values. What was that? Right. Or give me an example of something, maybe an event or something that the company does that's indicative of their culture and what it's like to work there. Or give me an example of a time recently when an employee was promoted internally. What was that example? What does the company do to help facilitate internal promotions? Do you see the difference? That's a much more pointed, specific question. And employers ask you all the time, give me an example of, or tell me about a time when. They ask those behavioral interview questions, but you can ask those questions of them. And I think that you should. I think that you stand a better chance of getting an answer, and that's something that's more concrete where they have to give you an example. That would be a much more powerful question. So think about whatever it is that you want to know from the employer, okay? And ask yourself, how can I reframe that into a question that's more specific, that forces them to give me an example? And then I want you to see how well they do with that, right? Throw them a little bit of a curveball. That's allowed, okay? As I like to say, I'm former HR, and I like to tell people it's okay to make our HR a little uncomfortable. It is. All right, go ahead. They'll be fine. They'll get over it. or the manager. You're not being too pushy with that at all. Okay. It's just curiosity. You're asking questions of curiosity. All right. Number 4. Yeah, we're number 4. All right. I want you to kindly creep their employees on LinkedIn. And you're not really being a creep because it's all on the internet, right? It's publicly available. But I do want you to spend a few minutes before you go on an interview taking a look at the profiles of people who work at the company. Again, I think it would be most impactful if you looked at people in your department that you might likely be working with and working for, okay? Because you can have totally different experiences in department to department sometimes. You have different bosses, different cultures, things like that. So try to look at their profiles. Some of the things that you might be looking for, all right? We might be looking for, how long have people been working there? Is there a lot of turnover? Is everybody new? Or do I see a lot of profiles of people who've been there for 5, 6, 10 years? Awesome. Again, just like with the online reviews like Glassdoor, we don't want to always make too many conclusions from this because we don't always have the whole picture, right? It gives you good clues and it's a good jumping off point. And if you see a lot of trends recurring, okay, then you probably can infer something, but not always. So again, this is all part of your strategy, right? Each one of these rolls up into your total research strategy. We're not going to do just one of these things. But I do want you to take a look at the profiles of people who work there and see what information you can get and just see how they present themselves, right? Or maybe where did they work before? What kind of backgrounds did they have before they came into this role? It's really important, of course, to study up a little on the people directly that you'll be interviewing with. Definitely do that. But in addition to that, just kind of see what you can find by looking at the profiles of the people who work there. Or also, pro tip, if you have LinkedIn Premium, you should be able to access the advanced search features that are on there. And those are really, really good and underutilized. And I believe if you do that, you should be able to search for people who used to work, so a past job at that company. You might want to try that too and just see if you see a lot of people who had short job tenures there. This is a little bit more time-consuming strategy, but again, it's well worth it to go into the interview with information and having done some research. So a couple little tips there. All right. This is a really, really big one too. So I want you to, in addition to reading what you can online on LinkedIn and Glassdoor, I do want you to try to go beyond that as well and ask your network. Okay. Every time you get ready to go into interview with a new company, I want you to put out some feelers through LinkedIn, email, phone, text. I don't care what you do. And say, hey, I am interviewing with ABC company. Do you know anything about them? Do you know anybody who works there? Try to get some intel. Okay. And get some advice and some insights, recommendations. I talk about those 3 things a lot with my coaching clients. And you might come across somebody who knows something. Maybe they have interviewed at that company. Maybe they used to work there. Maybe they know somebody who works there now or used to work there. Maybe they could introduce you to that person. You could have a quick call with them, or maybe they just have come by some information. But engage your network in this process and see if any of them have any information that could be valuable before you go into the interview. All right. Because online stuff is fine. And that's one part, but I'd really like to see you supplement that with talking to people and having real conversations and kind of getting that firsthand information rather than the kind of the secondhand information that we see online. Then it probably is true, but we just don't know, right? At least that's the way it's coming from people that we know and trust a little bit. So, all right, you guys, number 6. This is the most important. So this is why I saved it for last. And if you do this, you're going to be better off than I was in that job that I told you 8 years ago, where I only lasted 3 months. And then I got fired because it was terrible. I want you to follow your intuition above and beyond all. Okay. You should feel happy and excited when you take a job. It should feel good. It should feel right. You should be excited. You should have a clear picture of what you're going to do, who you're going to be working with. You should want that job. Not just a job, you should want that job. And there's a difference. Okay. But your intuition is there for a reason. It is worth something. All right. And I want you to listen to it because I ignored it. There were so many red flags when I looked back at that job. There were so many. And I needed a job because I was unemployed. So I ignored every one of them. And shocker, I got what I asked for. I was just ill fit for this job and for this company culture. All right. And it was one of the best experiences in my life. I learned a lot, and I'm still telling people about and teaching from it today. But if I can save you from that, I would love to. All right. So I want you to deploy all 6 of these. I challenge you, I dare you to do all 6 of these things. And as we start to wrap up in the next few minutes, if you guys have any questions, pop it in the chat. I'd love to know. And it can be a question about this topic, or let's open it up to literally anything career, job search related. Hit me with it. I love a challenge. I'll do my best. I don't know everything, but I do know a lot about this stuff. So we have a few more minutes here. So go ahead if you guys have any questions now. And if you come by this afterwards when it's not live, post a question anyway, and I'll get notified and I will answer it. I'll put an answer in for you, even if it's tomorrow or something like that. Okay. But let's recap really quick. I want you to read online reviews and focus on the department that you'd be working in. I want you to pay attention to how they treat you in the interview process. Did you get a good feeling? Did you feel like you were respected? Okay. I want you to ask better questions, ones that are more specific, and ask for specific examples of what you want to know. Then I want you to go on LinkedIn and see what information you can find from the profiles of people who work there. Then I want you to engage your network and ask for any advice or insights you have about this company. And then above all, I want you to listen to your heart and I want you to listen to your intuition because it knows the truth and it will not steer you wrong. And sometimes we have to resist the temptation to take the first job that we get when we're unemployed. Now, I get it. There's the financial component. Sometimes it does make sense to go ahead and say yes to something because you need the money. That's fine. That's your call to make and keep looking. I am a fan and an advocate of getting paid and collecting a paycheck while you are job searching. So if you need to do that, you can. But the thing that you have to understand is if you take a job, that's going to take time and energy and resources away from your job search. Having a job in a way makes it harder to job search. You simply don't have the time or the energy sometimes to put into it, depending on how demanding your job is. So I want you to kind of balance those things out a little bit and just kind of do a little risk benefit analysis for yourself and see, do I need to take this job now, even though I know it's not the one I really want? Is it worth it? It might be. Or should I go ahead and let it go and hold out for what would be better? All right. So there you guys have it. If you have any questions later, like I said, pop it in there, but you guys can connect with me a number of ways. So I just put out my monthly newsletter called Get Hired Over 40. So definitely subscribe to that. You should be able to find it right on my LinkedIn profile, just maybe about halfway down or so. Hi there. Hi, Tracy. I've got another person. If you have a question, Tracy, we just kind of wrapped up, but if you have any kind of career question or questions about toxic jobs, let me know while I'm still here for another minute or two, and then you can watch the rebroadcast. But you can subscribe to my newsletter. I have a blog. I have a podcast called Career Uprising. I've got social media posts. I've got a LinkedIn group. I have a lot of content, you guys, a lot of free stuff. None of this will cost you a dime. All right. So check out the blog, check out the Career Uprising podcast. Let me put my website here. I'm going to just send you guys this really quick. You can pretty much find information on all of those things that I just said on there. And I love to hear from you guys. I love to get your questions. You can also just simply email me. I would love that. Yay, thanks, Tracy. That sounds good. I'm going to go ahead and just give you guys my direct email too, because I'm very approachable. Rising.com. That's me right there. All right. So I'm going to wrap up, you guys. Thank you so much. I hope this was helpful. I hope you can avoid that proverbial toxic job like I was in 8 years ago and use all 6 of these strategies, and it will not steer you wrong. Okay. All right. Go to the website, careeruprising.com. Check out my podcast. Oh, speaking of which, on this exact topic, my latest episode is this topic, and it's a lot longer. I go into a lot more detail. I break down each one of these steps. You're very welcome. Thank you for attending. And I'm so sorry if I got your name wrong. I have a name people spell and say wrong. I get it. But listen to the podcast, because I think you're going to absorb a lot more details. Thank you, Sonia. Oh, she heard this thing. Yes. You're going to get a lot more of each one of these. Okay. So if you go to careeruprising.com, where I just went /podcast, you will get the latest episode, and you will hear a lot more in depth from this topic. Okay. All right. Love you guys. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go, and I will be back in about a month with a whole nother live stream. Okay. Take care, guys.